In only one of the countries on this map is a single indigenous language spoken by a majority of the population. That country is Paraguay, and the language is Guarani. So what makes Guarani so special? Well, so many things actually. It's a really fascinating language. So let's just start off with the basics. So Guarani is the most widely spoken of the Tupian languages, which have historically been spoken across a huge part of South America. Today it's primarily spoken in Paraguay, and it's in an interesting position because it's one of the only indigenous languages that's widely spoken by people who do not themselves identify as indigenous. As a matter of fact, Guarani is understood as a first or second language by 77% of people in Paraguay, and in fact for a lot of people, especially in rural areas, it's the only language they speak. Spanish, on the other hand, is understood by 90% of the population, so a lot of people understand both Spanish and Guarani. This puts the two languages in a situation that we call diglossia. Diglossia is when you have two different languages or varieties of the same language that are used by one community for different situations. In the case of Paraguay, Spanish is more commonly used in business, education, and administrative situations, while Guarani is more commonly used in personal, familial, and colloquial situations. A lot of people also use yo para, or a mix of Guarani and Spanish. That being said, Guarani is extremely different from Spanish in some very interesting ways. I'll start off by talking about its sounds. So Guarani, or Guarani, has a lot of nasal vowels. Unlike Spanish, for example, Guarani distinguishes between e, a, o, Guarani also has pre-nasalized consonants like mba, nda, nga that show up before non-nasal vowels. Where things get really interesting, though, is when we start talking about grammar. Guarani is what we call an agglutinative language. That means you can combine pieces of meaning together into some big old words. Two of the most interesting aspects of that in Guarani's case are that it has nominal tense, so you can add past and future markers to nouns. For example, this word is husband, but this word is fiancé or future husband. Guarani also has an extremely extensive system of markers that can be put on verbs to express when they happened, for how long they happened, if they actually happened, and how you know that they happened. One of the ones that I find particularly interesting is this marker, which can convey a frustrative aspect. That is to say, the idea that something was gonna happen or it was supposed to happen, but it didn't. There's really so much more to talk about with Guarani, but I hope you found this brief introduction interesting and it encourages you to look more into it yourself. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if there's anything else you want to talk about, and I'll be